Alrighty, I am interviewing Sandy Blevins, and Sandy, do you give permission for me to upload this video on YouTube and share with my classmates?
Yes, I do.
Alrighty. How many years have you taught at this school?
It will be 25 years here.
Okay. What subjects do you currently teach, and what subjects have you taught in the past?
Currently, I am a special education certified teacher at a 9 through 12 high school, and I work in inclusion in Algebra 1 and English 1. I mainly work with 9th grade students. In the past, I've worked in geometry and other level English classes.
Alrighty, and then this next topic of questions are rural community characteristics of teachers. What made you decide to pursue teaching?
I always wanted to do something where I could help people, and I always wanted to help those disadvantaged or looking out for the underdog, and in special education, that's where I felt like I needed to be.
And you probably felt this back in high school, right?
Yes, a long time ago, yes.
Long time ago. Why did you decide to work at a rural school?
Well, I grew up here. I'm a graduate of York Institute, and I never thought about moving away or leaving. I wanted to stay here, so here I am.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of growing up rural in a global economy?
Well, the advantages are, we know everybody, and usually we have each other's backs. The disadvantages are we know everybody, and the disadvantages, going back to that global economy, is, we all have, it seems like in a rural community, kind of a single mindset, and we're not very open to new ideas because we've never been exposed to ideas outside of this community.
Definitely. What are the advantages and disadvantages of growing up rural in a global economy? I know you've named a couple, but are there any more?
I think the biggest, advantage is that we do know each other, and we can have that camaraderie between us and the parents, but that disadvantage being, we have just that lack of experience outside our community. I think that's just the biggest thing that I can stress as a disadvantage.
What lessons did you learn from being a part of this diverse culture of a rural school system?
Lessons, probably the biggest lesson I've learned is, if you're good to people, they're usually good to you. And especially in a rural community where you know each other, and if you're good to someone's kid, they remember it.
Yeah, I could agree with that. What are some of the values of a rural community? How do you see these as helpful or harmful to the students, families, or community members?
Well, the values are, I think it goes back to kind of that good old boy society of us all knowing each other. And there's good advantages there because, I could call you and say, little Johnny has just been a terror today, and you could get right on it. But then again, the disadvantage is, that little Johnny's a terror, and you know me, and you think that I'm going to be especially not that I won't hold him accountable, or he will get special treatment because he is little Johnny and we do know each other. So it's kind of both sides of the coin there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What professional development have you had recently that impacted your teaching? And do you feel it helped you and your students to gain in their college career readiness?
And I think going back, looking at the experience that we've all gained with Google Classroom has probably been the biggest thing that we've gotten an advantage of, especially with the virtual school that we've dealt with through COVID-19.
How did the COVID-19 affect your rural school at the end of the 2019-2020 school year?
Well, obviously on March the 16th, when we were all sent home, we had no idea that that was the end of the school year, and that we would not see our boys go on to the state championship in Murfreesboro, the basketball boys. We did not know there would be no traditional commencement, no proms, no spring sports, and it had a very detrimental impact, and especially, our kids who were the class of 2020, and they even missed out on their senior trip because it would have been forthcoming at the end of April, and that was another thing, that they missed.
Yeah, I forgot about that. What are your plans to prepare for this next school year, knowing that there is a high likelihood of some aspects of school being online? And how do you think your school will overcome the possible lack of technology?
Well, obviously, we're going in expecting the unexpected, and we all expect, even if we start out traditionally, that we're probably going to end up at some point being back to virtual school, whether it's short-term or long-term. And we're going to have to, rely on our technology, our Google Classroom, and the programs that we use individually in each classroom. And as far as getting over that technology hump in our rural school, I really don't know how we will combat that, because I don't think at York Institute that we have a Chromebook that we could assign per student, as in a lot of the bigger urban communities have. So I don't know, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't either. And Morgan County has one-to-one, but we don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just nuts.
It is.
This is about teacher administrator roles and that kind of stuff. What is the ratio of teachers to students at our school, and how do you think this impacts student learning?
I'd say the ratio would be probably 1 to 20, although I know some core classes, those that are required for graduation, may even max out at 25 to 30. And then we've got some classes that are electives, vocational classes and such, that it's a lot smaller number. And I realize that those are hands-on classes, and that's great, but it seems kind of like an oxymoron that our classes that are tested classes and that our teachers are accountable for are the bigger classes, where we can't always provide as much differentiated learning or that one-on-one. So I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
In big schools, one of the pros is having more than one teacher per grade level and collaborating as a team. And if there's only one teacher, how does this teacher have PLC meetings? And do you think the teachers all collaborate across grade levels to make it work?
As far as PLCs go in York Institute, our PLCs are set up by planning blocks, which doesn't mean that you're going to have a PLC with your teacher cohort anyways. And I do think that there are teachers here that teach the same subject that do work together and plan together. I know that you and Mr. Brady do. I know you guys aren't always on the same page, but you know where he's at and he knows where you're at. I don't think there's open communication through all subject areas where teachers are teaching the same thing. And that's one thing with our PLCs that might be better if we could tailor them more toward those same subject areas.
Definitely. Student data can be an important component of improving student achievement. How do you use data to guide your instruction, and how has this been effective in improving student achievement?
I'm not really a data person, so I don't really know. I know that those are things that are looked at. I know as the 8th graders come in with their MAP test and all that, they're kind of looked at, and that kind of guides the placement. And I know in the population that I serve in our special education students, the data that we receive kind of helps us to see who needs to be placed in those inclusion classes where they're going to get that extra help, or who would need a directed studies class, which would give them more enrichment and more repetition of those skills that are taught in that classroom. I know that that's data driven, but as far as school-wide, I'm not as familiar with.
I think we missed that question the first
time. I do too, because I don't remember it, but that's okay.
Yeah, glad we went through it a second time. Student readiness. So, do you believe students from our school are prepared to be successful in college? And if so, what do you base this on? If not, what do you think our school could do better to prepare our students?
I think those students that leave us and that are motivated are prepared, because I think your preparedness is a lot of motivation, and it comes from you wanting to do it, and those that aren't prepared, so to speak, I think lack that motivation, or maybe, even that push from home. Because we can't do it all here, and a lot of it is just lacking that structure and that push, those that aren't ready.
Definitely. Do you feel that our curriculum or our mindsets help prepare our students for college in a global economy?
I think yes and no. I think a lot of our classes, our curriculum and mindset are so that they are set up so that they do prepare our kids, but I do think that there's some areas, some departments that we do need to work on. I know, coming from the background of having a son who graduated in 2019, he was always in the harder classes, but a lot of the so-called harder classes did not push him. And he was not gifted. He was smart and he was motivated. He was not gifted. And, he pulled really high averages, but he should have been pushed more than I think than he got pushed.
Okay. And what subject was that again?
In science.
Okay.
Science, I felt like, was lacking at that point for
Yeah.
him.
Do you think we are getting better in that area or about the same?
I think probably better in the last probably couple of years.
Mm-hmm. What might you say to a graduating high school senior to promote his or her desire to attend a four-year college?
Well, going back, I really think you need to know your student, whether it's your own individual child or a student that you have that you've gotten, that you've built a relationship with here as a teacher-student bond here at school, and you've got to know. And every kid is not college material. Every kid is not TCAP material. Every kid does not need to go straight out to the job. But we need to try to get to know those kids. And of course, our advisor-advisee program is something hopefully that will help us there. But you kind of just need to know, what that push is. My advice to my son, I'm a college graduate, and I told him, I said, I'm not telling you that a college degree is the right answer, but it's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get there and it's not for you or it's not a good fit, there's a lot of other possibilities. It's not just one choice.
Yeah.
And
he loves it.
He does. He absolutely loves it. And he's doing awesome. But that's not the only road out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Worldwide perspective or stereotypes. So, do you feel that rural school students are stereotyped as being hicks or rednecks, backwoods, etc.? And how do you combat this in your classroom or school in order for your students to feel confident about their education?
Probably, definitely on the stereotypes, but honestly, I don't even think about combating it because it didn't really come up, and I don't know if it's just a fact that we're all from here. We do get, kids that move in here that are from a more urban area, but I don't really think that I've ever combated it in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Have you thought about it before?
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I don't know. I don't know. I've never even taken it to heart, really, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I am.
You're such a mess.
Yeah.
I love it. Rural communities are often seen as ultra conservative, behind the times, or lacking a future mindset. What is your perspective?
Oh, I think we are definitely a conservative community, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier. So many people that live in our community, not just our kids, but our parents, have never lived or even being outside that realm of, Fentress County and Tennessee, and they don't realize that there's more opinions and more diverse ways to look at things, and they've only got that, that tunnel vision just because of that lack of experience.
Yeah, I agree. This is about dropouts, which the literature calls pushouts. Based on your experience, do you know of any students that dropped out of high school before they graduated, and what factors do you think might have caused that?
Oh, I know a lot of kids throughout my 25 years here that have dropped out. And I think the main thing that's caused that, I really think it goes back to home life, and I know that's not what we want to hear, but I really think, especially probably in the last 10 to 12 years, education is not a priority to people. And unless we make it a priority at home and we prioritize the importance of education, then the kids that we're sending to school aren't going to prioritize it either.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times too, I just thought about this, in elementary school when kids are held back and they come to us and they're starting high school when they're already 15, that's a high likelihood that kid's going to be a dropout before they graduate. And that's something to think about. It's just, there's no right answers, but really it has to be a priority at home. Education has to be a priority.
Yeah. Or those kids that, got held back and they're 16 coming to.
Yeah, 15, 16, yeah. You can
Really
almost stamp on their forehead, and that's where we need to do that intervention and figure out an early graduation program for these kids.
Yeah.
We need to be proactive, not reactive when they decide, oh, they're going to drop out at 18 and they've just started their junior year. We needed to have already had a plan in place, seeing that they came to us at that age as a freshman.
Why do you think our school doesn't do that?
I think it goes back to that tunnel vision. We've only got one way of doing things, and we're looking at a traditional 4-year high school career, but it's not a perfect fit for everybody.
Yeah, definitely not. This is about community or parent involvement. Considering your experience as a youth or adult in a rural community, what parental involvement programs benefited the students' educational goals and social well-being?
Well, I have a different perspective than a regular education teacher because I am a special education teacher, and of course, we are required every year to have IEP meetings, which require that parent involvement. And it's not 100% guarantee that that parent's involved every year because they can choose not to come. But for the most part, we do pretty good getting our parents in, and those that we communicate with on a regular basis, it's usually a better positive effect on that kid's education. And, I know you and I have talked through the years, and we've always, shared stories about students and parents and all, and the ones that you communicate with. I mean, if you have that open line of communication, even whether it starts out positive or negative, it's going to benefit the child. If you have that open line of communication.
Yeah, definitely. How do teachers communicate with parents at our school, and how do you think this communication varies from teachers and their communication in non-rural school systems?
Well, that's a good question. I have no idea in a non-rural school what the communication protocol is. I know here, my first line of defense is a phone call, and it's a voice phone call. It's not a text or, an email. It's a person-to-person phone call. And a lot of times after I've set up that relationship, then I might text that parent letting them know that this is coming up, or that your child's bringing this home and it needs to come back tomorrow, or they're assigned this and this to do. And I know a lot of teachers here that I talk to in different subject areas are not comfortable talking one-on-one. They want to text or they want to email. But I really think that a parent really appreciates the voice. I really think that should be our number one line of defense. And I've done a lot of home visits. I'm not opposed to that either if that's what needs to be done.
Do you think they do home visits in urban schools, suburban schools?
I don't know.
I wonder.
I bet they do. I mean, it may not be the whole population, but I bet there are home visits done.
I never thought about that.
I know, I think in the Head Start, which is a federal funded program that is throughout the country, that part of the requirements for Head Start is they have to do home visits before each year when they start. So I know that's happening and that's, like a pre-K version.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I did not know that. Let's see here. What types of community programs does your school have to promote relationships with businesses in the community?
Community programs. We used to have a really active community education program, but it is not active anymore. I know we have an advisory council, and there's members of the community that's on the advisory council with Dr. Miller. I don't know how effective that is. I'm not that familiar with it. What was the question again?
What type of community programs does your school have to promote relationships with businesses in the community?
I don't know. Can you think of anything right off?
Honestly, the only businesses I can think of are the halls, but we don't have a program to bring them
they
in.
just kind of donate a lot of things to the school.
Yeah.
I don't know right off, other than just,
Miss Jody.
Yeah.
She's our program.
Yeah, she's our program. She runs it all. She makes sure we all have what we need, doesn't she? Yeah.
She is just awesome.
Yeah, she is awesome.
Anyways, did they have that advisory council before Dr. Miller came?
Yes, it's always been here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
At your school, what members of the faculty and or staff are responsible for community outreach?
I would say the leadership team that Dr. Miller has appointed, which is all the division heads from each department, would probably be the ones that would spearhead that, but I'm not for sure.
Okay. Thinking of the various sports, clubs, and activities that your school hosts, what do you think brings the community together the most?
Sports.
Sports,
Definitely sports.
Which one of the sports?
Football.
Football.
Yeah.
Although our basketball, I think this last year.
Oh yeah, basketball was awesome, but football, going from being the assistant athletic director and doing gate, football is where it's at. Yeah.
Okay. What extracurricular activities and advancements does your school provide to students? If they're not available at your school, how can these students participate elsewhere?
So what? Say it again.
What extracurricular activity? Sorry, guys, it's getting hot. What extracurricular activities and advancements does your school provide to students? And if they don't have them here, how do students participate elsewhere?
Oh, we have various sports and there's various clubs here. And the only thing that I can think of that we don't provide, I know there's a girls volleyball team that's at the Clark Range High School that our kids can participate in that we don't have here.
Okay.
And we provide football and men's and women's soccer. And if the kids from Clark Range High School want to participate, they can be on our soccer and our football teams.
We're the
here.
big school.
Yeah. And I think that we even have we've had some homeschool kids that's been on our baseball team.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think so.
That's awesome. Okay, so here's the last couple of questions. They're about teacher-student relationships, so be prepared.
I'm prepared.
Dig deep. Could you tell me about one of the best student relationships you might remember?
Yeah, probably the best one that I can remember. We had a young man, it's probably been about 15 years ago, and he lived with an aunt and a cousin and the cousin's little girl. And it was not a good situation. I think there was drugs going in and out of the house that he lived in. And we were really helping him to try to live out and to be independent, to have his own place to live. And he had turned 18, and this was the beginning of his senior year. And so we had worked proactively in the special ed department, and we helped him retain housing in the housing project. And we helped set him up. And I gave him my living room furniture because I was almost ready, not hardly ready to buy new. So I gave him my couch and chair. One of the ladies that taught with us at the time gave him appliances. We got him moved in, and it wasn't, I think, 2 weeks from the time we moved him into his housing project unit, the trailer that he lived in exploded. And his aunt and cousin and the little girl all perished in the fire. And I just keep thinking it was a God thing, because if we hadn't helped him got out, he would have been in that trailer with them.
Oh my God.
So that was probably the most positive thing that we've ever been a part of.
What caused the explosion?
I think it was a meth lab.
Oh my God. Oh, I got goosebumps.
Yeah. That's the most memorable thing that I can think of that we've dealt with.
Wow, okay. Could you tell me about one of the not so great student relationships you might remember?
Oh, goodness. There's probably more of them than I can count. The not so great. Well, we've had students, one in particular who dropped out, and I really, really, really tried to intervene. I did home visits. I called grandma, really trying to get him back in, and he was just very much negative toward me and just very ugly, as far as speaking toward me and stuff. And we kind of had a pretty good relationship at school, but when he dropped out, the relationship went south, because I really, really tried to get him to come back, and I was trying to think of anything I could do to help him just to get those credits, and it just didn't work out.
Oh my God.
And he went on, and he's been incarcerated a lot. And I think probably if you looked at numbers, that a lot of people that's been incarcerated do not have high school diplomas. And I'm on a nonprofit foundation, and our juvenile judge is actually on this board of directors with me, and he wanted to start this program back several years ago because he wanted to bring like a GED tutoring service inside the jail. But he and I kind of bumped heads, because I don't feel like that the justice system and our juvenile justice system backs up attendance. Like if we go and we got a kid that has poor attendance, I really don't think that they help the school system a lot. And then this kid drops out and they end up incarcerated without the high school diploma. But if they would have been proactive and helped us on the front end, maybe we wouldn't have gotten to where that kid got to. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
So that's definitely a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Is the boy that you helped move out, is he still here in Jamestown?
No, last I knew he was in Cookeville.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Is he doing okay?
Yeah, he's had some struggles, but he's okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. But you never know. You never know what, and at the time when we were doing it, it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because we were just thinking anything to try to help him get in a better situation and to become independent and helping him, get employment and all. But you just never know what the ripple effects will be.
I guess not.
you know. And it was probably never meant for him to be in that trailer at the time of the explosion, you know.
Probably, yeah.
And we were just meant to be where we were meant to be,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
But yeah.
Well, that was the last of my questions. Is there anything you would like to add? It was quite
I
a
think I'm
hodgepodge.
good. It was, and we are sweltering.
Yes, and guys, this was our second run through because the first time didn't tape, so sorry.
Well, maybe they got better answers this time.
Yeah. Well, I will post this later, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm scared to death to hit this button.
Well, it looks like.
It looks right.
Yeah.
Ah.